Hello and welcome to EPG Pathshala. In this particular presentation, we will discuss about Fred W. Riggs, who is a prominent administrative thinker. Let me just locate Fred W. Riggs in the sequence of administrative thinkers. It may be mentioned that administrative theory has undergone a number of phases. And the first phase of theory is related to classical theory. And the classical theory tried to look at administration in terms of seeking efficiency and economy. For that, they proposed certain principles, the principles of administration, with the help of which administrative efficiency and economy in operations can be secured. The second set of theories are known as neoclassical theories. Essentially, they are also known as human relations theory, which has focused or shifted focus from mere structure of the organization to functions of the organization, and more particularly to the individual human beings within the organization. And after that, we have behavioral theories, which have shifted focus from how administration should be to how administration is as a matter of fact. So it is on the realities of administration. These are all theories which have been contributed by Western scholars from Germany like Max Weber, scholars from America like Woodrow Wilson, Luther Gulick, Linda Lorvik. Some of these people are mostly from the developed countries or the so-called first world countries. Students, you better know the usage of these words, first world, second world and third world countries. This is important to understand Fred W. Riggs' contribution. First world countries are those which have developed through capitalism. America, most of the West European countries are considered first world countries. Second world countries are countries which have developed through socialism, like Soviet Russia, Yugoslavia, Bulgaria, Romania, Czechoslovakia, some of these East European countries. And the rest of the countries, mostly located in Asia, Africa and Latin America, are called third world countries. These countries are also known as post-colonial nations. Underline the word post-colonial. What it means is there was a phase in world history where some of the European countries colonized almost the entire world and subjugated them. For instance, England, France, Spain, some of these countries had vast empires all over the world. And after Second World War, there is a phase called post-colonialism, which means many countries which were earlier under British rule or Portuguese occupation or French rule assumed independence. Fred W. Riggs' theory of public administration is known as ecological theory. What Riggs contributed is that he says the environment of administration influences administration. Therefore, to study public administration, you have to have an ecological perspective. Ecology is studying something in relation to the environment. Now, this concept first arose in life sciences. There is a subject called plant ecology. Now, particular plants grow in particular climate. They don't grow in some other climate. So, taking cue from this, an idea has come that administration will be different from different countries, and same model of administration need not be successful in all countries. Fred W. Riggs is considered an ecological thinker, or one who has proposed an ecological dimension of public administration. Number one, he is also considered to be a development administration thinker. Development administration is administration which is focused on the goals of development. Here, the first world or capitalist advanced countries, they have already developed. Their focus is stabilizing their regimes, stabilizing their high growth rates and high employment rates and all that. Whereas third world countries want to move fast, change fast, achieve development fast. So these countries are known as developing nations. Development is a goal-oriented journey. So they are moving fast in achieving certain goals. So the kind of administration needed for capitalist countries or advanced countries is administration is basically looked at as a stabilizing influence. They have to preserve what all good things are there in the society. Whereas in developing countries, they have to change things fast. So F.W. Riggs may be called a development administration thinker also. Thirdly, F.W. Riggs is also called a comparative public administration thinker. Comparative public administration is a theory which says that to understand any country's administration, if you just study that particular country, you are not going to make full sense of the administration. You may understand that country, but unless you understand certain other countries and compare it with that country, you will not know good and bad of that country. So this comparative perspective, comparison with other administrative systems becomes important. So therefore, he has done this contribution. We will first know some background of F.W. Riggs. F.W. Riggs was born in China in 1917. He obtained his PhD from Columbia University in 1948, and he served Indiana University, Hawaii, and Stanford universities. And more importantly, he was the first chairman of Comparative Public Administration Group. Let me give a little background to Comparative Public Administration Group. An idea came up in among administrative thinkers or people seriously thinking about administration that in the initial years of independence, after independence, countries like India tried to use American models, American systems of administration for developing their own administrative systems. For example, in India, Ford Foundation has sent some experts to guide us in developing our country and bringing faster, speedier development. So some of those ideas did not achieve much success. There an idea came that maybe the administrative practices or administrative systems or administrative procedures which are developed in Western countries like America, some of the European countries may not be straight away used here because like soils are different. Different soils may not allow the same crop to grow. So if you want to grow a particular crop, you have to have a particular soil. So transplantation of those ideas, practices and systems may not be useful. Therefore, idea of development administration says that you have to develop administrative theories de novo in developing countries because their experience is different, situation is different. So therefore, in administrative theory, one important thing that has happened with F.W. Riggs is that they have focused the study of administration from Western societies to non-Western societies. Maybe societies like India, countries like China, Singapore, Malaysia, some of these countries became the focal points of study. Earlier they were studying administration of America, France, Germany, Italy, Spain, some of these countries, and people started getting a feeling that these studies may not be straight away relevant for third world countries. Third world countries are different. Therefore, you have to compare between developed countries and developing countries or between developing countries per se so that you will get some more understanding of administrative systems. F.W. Riggs was the chairman of Comparative Public Administration Group. This Comparative Public Administration Group, known as CPA Group for short, has initiated many studies on a comparative perspective. Now, this Comparative Public Administration Group has given a directive or a kind of initiative to all the scholars who are engaged in this kind of study to make a shift in their methodology of study. The old methods they have to leave off and they have to embrace new methods of study. Now, there are 3 points of departure in the new methodology. So they have to do 3 things differently. Let me just summarize them. The Comparative Public Administration Group expected that the studies were either too normative, they should become empirical. So a shift away from normative to empirical. Let me just explain. Normative approach is looking for norms. What is good administration, how it should be and all that. So that is not much use. Now, comparative public administration scholars thought that instead of studying what is good, what is ideal, what is best, you study what really is the situation in administration. You understand the reality. The focus should be on reality, not on norms or ideals. Number one. Number two, you have to make a shift from ideographic studies to nomothetic studies. Ideographic studies means study of one country, one situation, one system, one department. So you don't understand much studying one single department, one individual. You have to study many and make a comparison. So nomothetic means studying many rather than one. So the nomothetic studies are supposed to be cross-national studies. Say for example, you want to understand about corruption. So why there is corruption in India? If you just understand Indian situation, it may not be very revealing. You study why there is corruption in China, why there is corruption in Pakistan, why there is corruption in Singapore, Sri Lanka, Malaysia, etc., etc. From there, if I think the modus operandi of corruption is the same everywhere, I think there is something basically wrong with the situation or the development syndrome. It's not something wrong with the country as such, because everywhere the same thing is happening. So therefore your understanding will be better. So second point of departure is from ideographic to nomothetic, or one nation study to cross-national studies. Cross means across so many nations. The third and another major change in methodology of study is a shift from non-ecological to ecological study. Earlier studies studied administrative systems per se, or at best they studied about the political and administrative system. But administration is not a free agent. Administration does not exist in vacuum. Now, if there is corruption everywhere, administration also is bound to be corrupt. So therefore, when you relate the administration to its environment, ecology, ecos means environment, logy means study. You study the environment. Suppose you want to study the administrative system and the phenomena of corruption in India, you study the environment in which Indian administration is working. So what is the culture in which we are operating? What is the kind of political system? What is the kind of economic system? If there are things in economic system, political or cultural system, they may somehow influence the administrative system. So therefore, it is something like roots. The other things, environment is like roots. Roots give the nourishment. Roots give the feeding. Even if you reform administration, suppose administration is something like a branch, you apply pesticide there, you want to kill all the insects and all that, but deep down from the roots there is something, some poison coming, and they are bound to come out to the roots and spoil them. So therefore this is the approach that the comparative public administration group has been advocating, and Riggs has followed this. So his methodology made a departure from normative to empirical, ideographic to nomothetic, from non-ecological to ecological. Of course, F.W. Riggs was not the only one who was doing this kind of study. Prior to him, John Goss, Robert Dahl, Merton, and some of these people have also pursued some studies based on ecological approach. One more aspect of Frederick's approach to public administration or study of public administration is structural functionalism. Structural hyphen functionalism. What it means is, while studying public administration, he studied two things. If he is studying a particular department, say income tax department, a sales tax department, agriculture department, now you want to understand completely about that particular department, you do two things. One, understand what is the structure, and understand what is the function. So you have to understand the structure and function, and then only you will gain the complete understanding of the things. And what are the structures and what are the functions, and based on that he has identified unifunctional, multifunctional, etc. kinds of functionality. Next important element or aspect of F.W. Riggs' approach to study of public administration is systems approach. Now, systems approach has been used by David Easton in political science, and this approach says that if you have to understand things, you have to understand things from the systems perspective. What systems perspective says is that administration or public administration is a part and parcel of the social system. The social system is the wider system in which administrative system is located. So therefore, from this perspective, what you have to understand is what are the linkages between society and the administration. Now, if the society is something, administration cannot be entirely different. Just to cite one example, there is casteism in society, and therefore there are caste-based reservations in Indian administration. Now, if there were not to be caste system in Indian society, there would not have any reason for SC reservations or ST reservations. Now, because of caste system, there was discrimination. Some castes got disadvantaged and they could not come into administrative position. Therefore, we had to do this. So, therefore, the society, if you understand the society, you understand the logic of administrative system. So, systems approach is studying administration not in isolation, but in relation to its wider environment. Wider environment means the social aspects, political aspects, cultural aspects, communication aspects. All those things should be understood because all these things have their own influence on that. Now, the last and the most important contribution of F.W. Riggs is to model building. What he has done is he has tried to develop different models of administration. Initially, he said that there are two kinds of countries, and these two kinds of countries are agraria and industrial. What Riggs meant is basically there are two types of nations, two types of countries, agricultural countries and industrial countries. Now, as an example, you may say India was an agricultural country at that point of time, and America was an industrial country. So, administration in agricultural country like India is of particular kind, and administration in America is different kind. And basically, the link is with the industrial nature of the economy. Now, people made a lot of criticism against this. This was two-point model building, agraria, industry. He also mentioned that all over the world, agricultural countries are trying to become industrial countries. So, agraria is trying to change into industry. So, they are emulating. Agricultural countries are copying the industrial countries. Now, when he made this contribution, there was criticism. People started saying that actually there are not pure types. There are some countries which are in between. There are agricultural countries, there are industrial countries, no doubt. But there are some mixed countries. They are neither agricultural nor industrial. So his model of public administration is not sufficient. It would only explain help you to understand the administrative system of very backward countries and very advanced countries. But now development administration's focus is on developing countries. Developing countries are majority. I think 3/4 of the world population is in developing countries. And therefore, his administrative theories may not be very useful and it's limiting. So, taking this criticism, F.W. Riggs said, okay, he developed third model. He said, okay, there are agraria, agricultural countries, industria, the highly developed countries, but in between, he named another model. He said transitia. Transitia is a country which is changing from agricultural to industrial. So, this became the basis for his development of ideas and administration. Let me just summarize that F.W. Riggs was the first chairman of Comparative Public Administration Group. He was a development thinker. He followed comparative approach to study of administration. He followed ecological approach. He shifted his focus from normative to empirical, ideographic to nomothetic, non-ecological to ecological, and he has resorted to model building. I was mentioning about Fred Riggs' contribution to model building. He developed certain models of administration to help a student of public administration to understand what type of society they have. And these models are kinds of measuring rods to understand what kind of administrative system is there in one's own country. And as I mentioned, he tried to first develop two models, agraria, industria. Later he changed them into three models, agraria, transitia and industria. Now he named these three models differently once again. An interesting aspect of Rick's contribution is that Riggs has taken examples from physics. In physics, there is a theory called theory of dispersion of light. This theory says that when a light ray, which is simple pure white, when it goes through a prism, it gets diffracted into 7 colors. We call it Vibgyor colors. Violet, indigo, etc., etc. 7 different colors come out of one color of light. So this example he used to compare the societies. In a fused society is like a light ray before entering a prism. So all functions are there done by one structure. Say for example, there is a tribal chief in a backward country. He is a legislature, executive, judiciary. He makes laws, he enforces, he decides and punishes people. So all the functions of government are performed by one person. This is a sign of backwardness. And the advanced countries are supposed to be ones, which are like a light ray getting out of a prism. One color becomes 7 colors. So the 7 colors are the functional differentiation. The near example of that he cites United States of America, which is based on the theory of separation of powers. In America, there are different structures for different functions. There is legislature for lawmaking, there is executive for implementation, there is a judiciary for adjudication. These are separate. So this is the sign of development. This is the idea he was conveying. Now, on the basis of this, he made one more refinement to his models. The names of agraria, transitia and industria, taking the example from physics, he gives new labels. The agrarian countries or societies are known as fused societies by this man, Riggs. A fused society is one where all functions are performed by one structure. And then the next kind of society is prismatic society. This is the second stage, like the light ray getting into prism. So there some differentiation starts. The light starts getting split into its individual component colors. And when the light ray comes out of the prism, it gets dispersed into 7 distinct and different colors. So this as the example, physics as the example, he says there are 3 types of societies: fused societies, prismatic societies and diffracted societies. According to him, fused societies are backward societies, diffracted societies are advanced societies, and prismatic societies are transitional societies or middle order societies, which are neither backward nor advanced. I think this is the kind of thing he has said. And he said in each society, his starting point was that the environment has an influence on administration. He proves that point. In countries which are underdeveloped, there is the administrative system which performs all functions. In highly developed countries, administrative system performs only particular functions. Now he says in fused countries, he makes a contrast between fused societies and diffracted societies, or backward societies and advanced society. And the contrast is as follows. Now I'll give, in fused societies or backward societies, the values are ascriptive. Whereas in advanced societies, the values are achievement based. Values here means what value and importance a person gets. In a backward society, a person's importance depends on ascriptive values or birth-based values. You are son of a Maharaja, you become important. You are son of an ordinary fellow, a beggar, your importance is not there. So your importance depends on not your achievement but your birth. So birth-based values are ascriptive values. In advanced countries, no matter who you are, who your father is, you may be a beggar's son, pauper's son, a cobbler's son, but if you achieve something, you are respected. So achievement is the basis for respect. So these are known as achievement values. Now next important difference is in backward societies there is particularism. Now for each person there is a separate treatment. Whereas in advanced countries, there is universalism. Say, for example, you commit a traffic offense, no matter who you are chief minister's son or the president's son, the law will take its own course. They will book you, not sparing anybody. But in third world countries, in backward countries, now the values are particular. Important people, sons are let off, whereas helpless people, children are framed or booked. So this kind of values are natural in backward countries. One more important difference is in backward countries there is limited social mobility, whereas in advanced countries there is high social mobility. What social mobility means is that a person can improve one's position in society after birth. All is within his hands. He has so many opportunities of coming up in life. So this is the sign of advanced societies. Whereas in backward societies, whatever effort you make, however pious you are, however industrious you are, you have very limited chances of going up. So mobility is restricted in backward countries. And one more thing is there is a dominance of ascriptive social groups in backward countries or fused countries. Whereas in diffracted countries or societies, there is associations are important. I'll just illustrate the point. Ascriptive social groups are birth-based social groups. You are known with your caste. You are a Brahmin, you are a Kshatriya, you are a Shudra, you are a Dalit. So all these statuses are based on your birth. So this is ascriptive status. Your family connections are important, caste connections, tribe connections, these become important. Whereas in advanced countries, your associational contacts are important. You are a member of a professional group. So you are a member of a chartered accountant, you are a registered pharmacist, you are a member of a medical council. So all the associations are formed on the basis of certain achievement, and the status symbol is that rather than your caste, community, tribe or gender. So these are some of the differences, and he names the administrative system of a developing country or middle order countries which are neither advanced nor backward as Sala model. Now the Sala model is a combination of the features of administration in advanced countries and backward countries. It's neither advanced nor backward. I think in developing countries there are mixed values. Now just to take India as a case in point. In India, there are two sets of values simultaneously operating. In our country, we tend to get respect on the basis of our caste, community, birth, gender. But we are also getting respect on the basis of our personal achievements. So therefore, there are two kinds of things. So this kind of feature is called Sala system or Sala administration. And all in all, what is being suggested is that every country is in the process of transition. Backward countries sooner or later will go to development, and this FW Riggs has shown the path in which countries are transiting. So he says there is a kind of universal tendency, there is a kind of trend all over the world of backward countries, backward administrative systems becoming advanced administrative systems. Before we conclude, we need to have some major points of criticism against FW Riggs. There are two major points of criticism against him. One is that one requires a whole dictionary to understand Riggs' writings on ecology of public administration. Riggs has spinned off so many words like agraria, transitia, industria, fused, diffracted, Sala model, bazaar canteen, so many things, and one wonders as to how many words he would spin. So therefore, people are not really understanding his language. That's one criticism. Therefore, said that Riggs would have written a dictionary to help readers to understand what the content of his contribution is. The second important and more stinging criticism, more serious criticism, is that there is an ethnocentric bias in Riggs' writings. Ethno means self-centeredness. Now, in Riggs' writings, what you really find strikingly is that he's trying to project an idea that American system of administration is more advanced than the system of administration in some of the backward countries, which perhaps is based on the assumption that his own culture is superior to others. So this is one more criticism against FW Riggs. Despite of all this criticism, Fred Riggs is a fascinating thinker of administration. He has widened the scope of public administration, and he has brought many meaningful aspects. And in fact, he has brought about the environment of third world countries. He has shifted the focus of administrative studies from developed countries to developing countries. I think the world now, I think the 21st century, the century of some of the Asian countries or developing countries. So the focus on developing countries is a well-meaning focus, and Rick should be remembered for that. So here we conclude.